It's the winter 2025 anime season. I know the season has already started, but I thought I would just share some of the shows that I'm going to be watching this season and kind of get back into actually the rhythm of showing off whatever shows I'm watching in a season, but then also reviewing the season at the end. So doing all that stuff all over again. But let's just kind of jump on into it because it's me just kind of going through Mel and actually showing off what shows I'm watching this season. So with winter 2025, I'm going to start off with Solo Leveling's second season. So I don't like my isekais. I would never consider Solo Leveling to be an isekai. It's more just sort of I want to say it's more like a power fantasy, and that's really all it kind of serves to be and do. And the animation is still just as good as always. Very excited to see where the story goes. How can the main character get stronger? Is it possible that, you know, these S ranks that are now coming for him, S rank hunters, that he's kind of crossed paths with, is it possible that he is going to find himself in an interesting situation regarding these characters? You know, are there going to be new characters introduced? What kind of danger is he going to be facing? You know, there's going to be a lot going on, and I feel like I'm kind of in the front row looking forward to seeing how things go. So definitely a show worth being excited for. I would say if you want to give the first season a shot and you like the first few 2 to 3 episodes, then this might be up your alley. But I think if you don't fall in love with the first 3 episodes of season 1, might not be worth trying after that, just saying. But yeah, the next show that I'm going to be watching is actually a manga that I've read, albeit that I've only read maybe the first 3 or 4 volumes, but I never managed to get back to it. It's Sakamoto Days, which is pretty much based around this fella in the middle here, this sort of chubby dude. I was going to call him fat, but it literally says in the manga, "futotta," which means he got fat. But yeah, this guy is Sakamoto, and he is pretty much the best of the best assassin from when he was doing that sort of work back in the day. And one day he just so happened to go to a convenience store, see the clerk, he fell in love with her, got married, had a kid, got fat. That's like literally like a single page of the manga just explains the entire story. And so he now no longer does that type of work, and so now there are characters from his past that are now coming to, you know, either completely remove him from existence by taking him out, or joining him in his cause, or just running into random martial artists on the street. Like, there's a few different ways that he kind of runs into different characters in the show, and it is a very funny show that it looks pretty well animated, but the fight scenes in the manga are so good. So I am looking forward to seeing how that stuff, you know, translates over into the animation. Definitely looking forward to that. Next we have is Dr. Stone Science Future. So this is actually the 4th season of Dr. Stone. Dr. Stone has been in a very weird place for me. Season 1, I was always like, this is a cool idea because it's unusual to see the use of something like science in a shonen manga way. Like, so the thing is that Dr. Stone, by all accounts, is a shonen manga, but it's also relatively educational in the idea of like, hey, how did, you know, humans evolve from the Stone Age, but while adding some fanatical elements specific to Dr. Stone. Then season 2 happened, and I was like, okay, I'm not quite vibing with this. I liked the more sciencey stuff from season 1. Season 2 just didn't hit as hard. It felt more like a fight. Season 3 did bring back some more of that sciencey stuff, but it felt more like a fight between 2 different groups of individuals. One group that's on an island and lives there, and apparently, you know, has the ability to petrify others. And then you've got, of course, Senku and his crew. And now we're into Science Future, where the gang are now heading off to America to continue to evolve humanity from where they currently are by going from, you know, taking small elements, combining them together, and actually creating bigger and larger things. Like, for example, a rocket, which obviously doesn't exist in, you know, caveman days. There are some caveman-ish elements that are still around, but, you know, it's kind of an interesting show in that way. I'm looking forward to seeing what season 4 is going to be like. So far, it's been a pretty fun time with the show overall, even if I'm not the biggest fan of season 2 and 3 of Dr. Stone. Kimi no Koto ga daidaidaidaiisuki na 100人の Kanojo is... It's not a rom-com. Because the thing is that it's easy to call it a rom-com, but the thing is that it's really more of a parody of a rom-com than anything else. Where there is a guy, and then there are a bunch of girls, and each of the girls, when they meet the main guy, they have like the shock that happens, and every time the main character is like, you know, realizes that the shock happens, the girl falls in love with the guy, but the guy doesn't understand how any of this works or happens, and so it's taken to a semi-absurd degree by this fact that the title actually gives it away, that presumably by the end, he'll have 100 girlfriends, and that'll be something that he's kind of stuck with. Now, the cutesy art style, depending on how you want to look at it, may be a turn off for some people, but I would say it works well only because it's not meant to be taken seriously. It's actually supposed to be... If I were to give the show a feeling, it would be like a squishy feeling. It's not supposed to mold into any specific shape, but the thing is that you can get out of it what you want depending on whether you want to look at it as a legit romance show and hope for the best, but then realize there's too many jokes in it and then be completely turned off of it. Whereas if you treat it as more of a parody, then at least you know from that perspective that like, hey, there's going to be a lot of a little bit of fourth wall breaking like there was in the first episode, and like, you know, a few other small bits and pieces from this second season, so it just kind of builds up. But I think main thing is it is a parody of romance shows and a parody of harem shows, and it should just be purely really just treated as more of a comedy than anything else. Now next we have is Blue Exorcist, which Blue Exorcist Season 5, Ao no Exorcist to Yosuga-hen, which, I don't like Blue Exorcist. I don't think I've ever liked Blue Exorcist. I thought that Season 1 was fine. Season 2, I didn't really like the shift of art style, and I still don't like the shift of its art. Season 3 brought some interesting things forward, specifically in regards to the Illuminati trying to bring back Satan and things like that. And now, like, Season 4 was like, okay, that's fine, I guess, you know, human torture, human experimentation, whatever. Chuck all of that in there, but the thing is that all of that put together, it took so long to get to that point that it doesn't feel all that interesting, and the way that it's packaged up, as well as the art style, just doesn't really... I'm not really feeling it, but I am still going to sit down and watch it because, to be completely honest, I don't really drop any shows. Like, whenever there's going to be a sequel season, I will sit down and watch it, so I will continue to consume the show, even if I might not necessarily be a fan of the show itself. So this is really just more of like a meh burger than anything. A show that I didn't ever expect to see, or a manga adaptation I would never have expected to have heard or seen, is Ubel Blatt. So I would say don't expect too much from this show. This is definitely one of those shows you would expect to see in the late 2000s, early 2010s in terms of an adaptation, where very little is kind of explained and you kind of need to just figure things out for yourself, as to, you know what race, what characters are, and kind of the basic idea of like how certain elements of a particular world are used to benefit or enrich characters that are already in an enriched or privileged position and stuff like that. But pretty much our main character here, whose name I cannot for the love of God remember, is out to kill the 7 heroes for reasons that have not been established yet. I've only watched like the first couple of episodes, so there really isn't much to talk about, besides the fact that the main character is actually incredibly strong and maybe gifted in terms of his actual ability to fight. There is some comedy elements. and it toned down the gore a little bit from the manga. So depending on whether or not you actually feel offended by that, there is that element of it. And of course, we have a corrupt church that acts as a gate between the inside of the city and outside of the city, and so people are stowing away in an attempt to leave the city, because the church only accepts massive bribes in order to actually allow people to move through. So that's kind of what I mean by enriching people in privileged positions. But yeah, so at the moment, not much has really happened yet. It's just kind of explanation and bits and pieces about the world. I do see some interesting aspects to the world, but as of right now, there isn't really much I can truly talk about as of yet. But moving on from that, so we have Farmagia, which I will preface this immediately. Go into the show, if you're ever gonna watch it, expecting it to not be particularly good. The reason why this show caught my eye is because I was like, hey, wasn't there a game that released on PS5 called Farmagia? So I looked at I just jumped onto the PlayStation Store, had a look. Sure enough, Farmagia was there. So I was like, is this an animated adaptation of a game that just released, and also just so happened to also have a similar art style to Mashima Hiro? And then before I realized, oh yeah, Mashima Hiro did in fact work on the show, which is why the main character looks a hell of a lot like Natsu. And I can't remember the main character's name from Eden Zero, because I have to watch that as well at some point. But I've watched, I've been around, I've watched every episode of Fairy Tail. I've read the first volume of Eden Zero, and there was something that he worked on before Fairy Tail that I can't quite remember off the top of my head. But I've also watched that show, that anime adaptation as well. So of course, the cover of Farmagia already had me curious, so I actually got the game, and it's sitting right behind me at the moment. I feel like every time I have a game that I talk about, it's always somewhere nearby. But in regards to Farmagia, the show, go into it knowing, thinking that it's a bad show, because I feel like that's the best way you'll get out of it, where you have Farmagia, which are the name of the people that grow plants, and these plants turn into monsters that then fight alongside you. So it's kind of farming elements, which also I am very interested in, with some battle elements. And I feel like I haven't played the game yet. I do want to play it, but it feels like it has a very Rune Factory kind of feel to it. Maybe I'm just imagining things, but that's where I'm kind of coming from, I feel like, at the moment. But definitely interested in watching this for sure. But yeah, that's just the kind of feel that I'm getting from it. Now, the next 3 shows are currently on the show is on a hiatus for, so it's probably worth mentioning that. So I'm going to start off with Re:Zero Season 3. This show is on a hiatus at the moment and is expected to come back in February, which is insane to think about, because we only got 8 or 9, no, 10 or 11 episodes. I don't know. How many episodes did we get in the first core, and how many more do we have left? We've got 5 or 6 episodes left, I want to say. So I don't know why they started the previous season, gave a weird number 16 episodes, and then did the next the second half of the show from February the following year. It just doesn't make any sense. But anyway, Re:Zero, great time, excellent show. Season 3 is great. I have nothing but great things to say about it, so let's just kind of move on from that. Another show that's on a very weird break is Danmachi, which has done, I think, 11 episodes so far, and the last 4 episodes, which are a war game, is expected to return in April, which, so it says here that apparently the broadcast was delayed following the 11th episode, which aired on the 21st of December, and it's going to be until April 2025, which is a massive break in the middle of a single season. So sure, let's go with that. Danmachi, I am more down on than up. I'm not really feeling it at the moment, but if you watch Danmachi, I'm not going to go into too much detail. If you haven't seen it, especially, you don't want to go into any sort of spoilers, but there's a lot going on, and yeah, I think I'll just leave it at that. It's best to say as little as possible. And of course, One Piece is currently on a break because so it's currently on a hiatus until April 2025, again similar to Danmachi, because of the fact that it is currently doing a rerun of remastered episodes of the Fishman Island arc, yeah, or Fisherman Island arc, whatever you want to call it. That was like kind of episode 5, like in the late 500s going into the mid 600s, early 600s I want to say, which featured characters like Hawdy Jones and stuff like that. So that's not really worth talking about all too much either, but these are kind of the shows that I am currently watching on that I can show you on my anime list. And so yeah, let me know what you guys think about these shows. What are you guys watching? Is there anything in particular that you're interested in? Because I would be interested to know. But with all that being said, however, let me know what you guys think about all of this in the comments below. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe to the channel. I am aiming for 500 subs by the end of the year. With all that being said, I do upload every day, so I'll see you guys tomorrow.